You're listening to 148.8 Goon. Don't ever let me find you talking shit about your parents. It'll make you appreciate that you still got a daddy. If you ain't got one, don't you worry. I'm gonna be your new stepdad.
The Thugger Shruggers Bone. It's the Thugger Shruggers Bone. It's the Thugger Shruggers Bone. It's the Thugger Shruggers Bone. We got lazy and crazy. It's the Thugger Shruggers Bone. It's the Thugger Shruggers
Fuck you, YouTube! If you're cool enough to watch a new streamer this week, you're a big enough Chad to watch Single Player Carl. Bad words, Carl's a breakdown. Memes! If you think you'll find a bread tuber at Single Player Carl's, you can kiss my aunt. It's our belief that if you're such a base mother lover, you watch this guy's stream. Guaranteed! If you don't find Niggadry cool, you can shove it up your subscribe list. You heard us right. Shove it up your subscribe list. Bring your friends, bring your pets, bring your mom. We'll love your mom. That's right, we'll love your mom. At Single Player Carl's, you'll catch 6 ways a Sunday. Take a hike to Single Player Carl's, home of challenge laughing. That's right, challenge laughing. How does it work? If you can catch Carl being ignorant as fuck and not laugh once, you'll get nothing but shame. Don't wait, don't delay, don't fuck with us or you'll whip your weave off. Only at Single Player Carl's, the only stream that tells you to fuck on. What are you waiting for? Go to Single Player Carl's, New Orleans' snappiest, an exclusive home to the meanest sons of Cajuns in the state of Georgia. Guaranteed!
Those innocent eyes. That smile on your face makes it.
We're gonna have to start it over again because y'all need to appreciate this fucking mix.
Those innocent eyes. That smile on your face makes it easy to trust you. If they only knew the girl with the tattoo like I do. Doing what you're doing just to get your way going. Yeah, I see it. Just don't lose yourself along the way. No, 'cause you're doing what you're doing just to get to where you're going. And I see it, baby. And too many of us go have to say I do, but I knew the girl with the tattoo. Yeah. Oh yeah, I knew. Girl with the tattoo. I used to know that smile on your face makes it easy to trust you.
This what saga feel like in the nighttime. Watch what she do when the light shine. Drunk niggas tryna talk in a strip club. Shorty silhouette look like a dollar sign. Caught up, that's just how a nigga brought up. Blown ones for your loony ass niggas. Straight bells for your toony ass niggas. My niggas bigger than the bounce. Roll up in the bitch, still smell like an ounce. Right quick. Tight jeans on so she feel my shit. Tell me something good, baby. Tell me something good, shawty. Come and bring it to the hood, baby. Then I'm bring it back to the hood, shawty. This what saga feel like in the nighttime. Bust it up for shorty when the light shine. Still fucking with the same ass nigga. I know you wanna pray from Toronto. West side,
You're listening to 148.8 The Coon. And now, for a word from our sponsors. Sponsors for Single Player Carl and Radio Coon are provided by BBC Migraine Powder, Jib and Toby's Ethnic Enrichment Playground, Cringe On Demand, Blockbuster Entertainment, Uncle Tony's Riot Seasoning, Smart Negro Brand Colonized and Sheets Dating App, Immemorial Malt Liquor, and PointDexter.com, and the generous donations and watch times from viewers and haters like you. Thank you! And if you'd like to support Carl, consider leaving a wonderful donation at Ko-fi.com, Subscribestar.com, YouTube.com, and Twitch.com/SinglePlayerCarl. Make sure to support your nigga today, or you hate black people. Hey, how you do now? Hey, how you feel now? Hey, mixed now. Hello, chat.
We find ourselves gathered here today for yet another bit of this motherfucker telling us why we had to know all about what it is to know about. We're moving even further back in the past now. Now we're at the point before the affair was either going on or had started and was concluded. My soul is hollowing out and I feel like I'm dying on the inside. My hood mix is the only thing that I thought of that would give me the inspiration to keep going. So before we even begin, I am remiss to remind you that you must indeed select and show your deference to the one true Carl. Choose your denomination today and become a member of the Discord and become a member of the community. Otherwise, you're missing out 3/4 of 3/5 of your favorite... I'm telling you, if you do not follow me, you are missing out on the shit. Coming up tomorrow will be movie night. More than likely there will be 3 movies. Mainly because one of them will be easier to show than the others. And earlier in that day will also be Star and I's kid's birthday, which is to say Zulian's birthday. So, I'm going in with the lowest of lows so I can leave here reborn like Xerxes from the oil tar pit of 3000, Rise of the... I forget what the subtitle was. Was it Rise of the Empire? 300 Rise of Empire. I swear that's right. Yes, 300 Rise of Empire. That is correct. I am going into it. I'm going into the pit, and I am coming up into it, and I am being reborn with not a bit of hair on my body like Xerxes. Fat, juicy butt and all. Ava Green staring at me from the sidelines. So, how are we feeling, chat? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are we feeling? How are you feeling? How are we feeling? I'm assuming it must be nothing but good because ain't nobody saying it. Anyways, today is part 3. I would preferably like to be able to put in 2 videos today. That way we get through it faster. However, whatever we get through is what we get through. In that total, just like last time, was honesty. The videos we now have in front of us now is A Lost Town and a Found Family, which was right after the hurricane that pretty much fucked up the entirety of the Appalachia region. And then after that one is I'm Kind of a Medical Mystery, open close case parentheses. It sucks. I can't stop spinning as the thumbnail. So, let us begin at the beginning.
And I'm gonna be...
You're trying to be good. Is this gonna be the stream that makes me question humanity again? I don't know. Does every stream make you question humanity, Pip? You tell me. What do you think? Get out on the screen. Get out of here. Do-do-do-do-do. This one is in a little weird aspect ratio. I don't know why they got it in a square, but they got it in a square this time. A lot of yours do. Then I guess that's your answer now, isn't it? And minute file. Let's zoom into a new line. Should be about the same. No, I put up the dividing line so that I can separate them, but it's a little bit too close. I'll just draw one. do for now. Starting off with just a little bit of attention. Every photo in this video was taken by myself or a family member. Patreon.com at LeadheadYT. Certainly, that just brings a calm to your heart, doesn't it? It wouldn't be a Carl stream without someone questioning reality at some point. I mean, I don't think we need to any longer question their form of reality, but it is important to remember that what we are witnessing really is free. They really did post all this information to the internet to get made fun of about it so they could complain about people talking about them for free. I mean, at the very least, I guess they made money off of it from disaffected liberals that would support the trans puppy girls. Who knows? Adjust the audio. Right. So, just a little bit of sympathy post. They're showing up and opening up with the worst choice of color text on top of the scene of the shot after what happened from Hurricane Helene. Please do be remiss that at least 2 leftist breadtubers were affected by Hurricane Helene. One being Leadhead, the other one being In Praise of Shadows. And both of them have dog shit opinions. Now, mind you, I do not bring this up to say ha 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 ha, because that's not what I'm trying to point out. What I'm trying to point out is, it is possible for people with the worst opinions to just end up in a shit situation. And clearly they've recovered from this since. But to see the devastation, damn, that sucks, bro.
So, local news estimates that Hurricane Helene was the worst storm that my county has experienced since the 1910s. That means that it's been over a century since we've had flooding and wind like this. I personally have never seen anything like the destruction I saw last week. Nothing even close.
Right into the sympathy. Right into the sympathy. It appears as we keep moving backwards and backwards that we can see that a lot less effort was put into the feminization presentation. I think we can say that comparably such. Let's look at the document. Here's where this video is. And then here's them in the future. And then them here at the last piece. The only thing that hasn't changed is the fucking hair. The hair hasn't changed a bit. It still even has the same fucking bang framing and everything. This cannot be the trans haircut.
When we eventually did have to go out again, I spent about 4 hours on a drive that would normally take me about 45 minutes. Almost all spent trying to find any route through the city that hadn't been blocked by gigantic trees or fallen power lines or flooding. We saw cars that were submerged up to their windows, ambulances from halfway across the state towing emergency rescue boats, sinkholes that looked like something out of a superhero movie, houses and businesses that had been utterly destroyed by fallen trees and wind and floodwater. Tons and tons.
I got hit by a storm. I got hit by a storm. I got hit by a storm. Thank you.
And tons of people moving on foot through horrible conditions trying to get to one of the couple convenience stores that had been opened up again. And of course, undercover cop cars that were still trying to catch people speeding in spite of the emergency. Even as I write this, I hear FEMA helicopters in the distance delivering supplies and evacuating people. Luckily, our house is on a hill, so we've mostly been safe, but all around us there's just destruction. I've never had a storm knock out my cell service before, but as near as I can tell, everybody in town's been relying on word of mouth and radio to communicate any of these conditions to one another. I have no idea if my biological family is safe right now, though I have reason to assume that they are, and they have no idea if I'm safe, although...
Now, what we know about Leadhead and how they feel about their biological family, we can now come to know that this is them just sympathy baiting because they don't give a goddamn about how their family actually feels, let alone what they think. So, I'm pressing X to doubt on whether or not that was out of sincerity. Perhaps at the time that it was posted it was, but we know since that shit was explicitly said as a way to, just break in the moolah.
So they have reason to assume that I'm not. A couple of things need to be established before we move forward. So, my fiancé and I have basically taken in these 2 kids, a 19-year-old boy and a 20-year-old girl, and have started raising them as our own, basically.
Okay. Here, we hear mention of the polycule before the last video in the series. We also get mention of the fiancé here. So, Just typing this. And we everything ready about the storm. I immediately launch into the mention of the found family. Now, they make mention the first time that they mention them that they adopted a boy and a girl, not that they're transgender.
Before we move forward. So, my fiance and I have basically taken in these two kids, a 19-year-old boy and a 20-year-old girl, and have started raising them as our own, basically. Everything from helping them with doctor's appointments to teaching them how to fix a car to giving them the kinds of life lessons that their biological families really should have been teaching them.
They frame it as though they just basically chose to bring in two kids. Yet, we are remiss to know that all the way back in the first post, this was explicitly the group in which they had been living with, that they got involved with and looked at as though they were going to be friends with benefits. Quote, Leadhead looked at the adult child sexually. I just thought that we were going to be friends with benefits. My fiance and I were in an open relationship. It was on the table. This was at 4 minutes and 40 seconds into the first video. So, they're already going in with a lie, a framing. They're already lying at 2 minutes and 6 seconds in. This is going to be a long one, boys. This is going to be a long one.
While tomorrow's video is going to be exploring this dynamic in a bit more detail, for now you should just take it as read that my fiance and I are mothers in all but an official legal capacity. Anyways, back to the journal.
No, basically because it's not legal. They did not adopt them. They're basically living in a halfway house that they decided to create around the transgender lifestyle, as they bring in this 19-year-old and 20-year-old trans boy and trans girl to try and coach them through the transgender lifestyle choice.
The found family and I have been really scared for a couple days now, with the three eldest, which includes myself, kind of taking charge and trying to make sure that everything's handled, leaving buckets out to collect rain so that we can use it to flush the toilets, making sure the kids know that they should be eating perishable foods first, things like that. To be honest,
Because, you know, that's what you do.
times like this actually kind of remind me of Star Trek, specifically the idea of the cat.
You know what reminds me of this TV show from the 80s, guys? A torturous whirlwind that tore through the wooden area that we live in. That makes me think about fiction, you know? Real life problems make me think about fiction.
Captain needing to project confidence no matter how scared or hopeless they are so that their crew can be at their best. Believe me when I say that I have been scared out of my mind. I spent like 5 hours straight on day 2 just out here in the wind, just staring at that tree, listening to the echoes of all the other trees falling around all over the neighborhood, hoping to God that my home wasn't about to be destroyed. This tree very well could have fallen and just crushed all of our dreams. I saw a ton of larger trees that had been knocked down, but when my son woke me up in the middle of the night with a panic attack after his ceiling started leaking water, you can bet that I was swallowing all of that fear and telling him that it was going to be okay and that the bamboo was eating up all the wind.
Yes, because the best thing that all of you as autists could have done is basically just lie to each other. Granted, will you have any other choice? But at the same time, again with this fucking Minecraft music, I swear to fucking God, with this goddamn Minecraft music, I swear to fucking God, I swear to fucking God, I swear to God, I swear to God, I swear to God, man! I'm gonna lose it!
Only to just return to flinching at every single noise and shaking like a puppy on the 4th of July the second I got out of his sight. It's funny.
Also, welcome back, Bogdan. I hope you were able to catch the back end of the chat last time. Yes, every single time they seem to be sympathy thriving with the music. I'm assuming that this started as a trend from the video before last, which is where they then go on to talk about their their experience with their now fiance when they were playing over video games.
How parts of your mind, like fear, can just go completely dormant when you have to take action in extreme circumstances like a panic attack. My station amongst all of this has been to pretend like I know what I'm doing. I know a little bit about emergency situations, but most of my job here has just been improvising measures, like filling up the fridge with all our drinks so that it takes longer for everything to warm up once the power goes out, all while forgetting basic steps like filling up the sinks and bathtubs so that we don't have to rely on rainwater to flush toilets.
Sounds like you're not a very good survivalist, despite the fact that you live in the Appalachia region.
It's all done with the intent of making the kids feel like I thought of everything, so that they'll hopefully trust me when I tell them to not try to go to work, and to make sure all their devices are at 100% battery power until the second the power goes out. I don't really know what I'm doing in a situation like this, but I need the kids to think I do, because however scared I am, they're going to be twice as scared if I show it.
You're all grown adults. All of you are grown adults, and all of you lack survival skills, despite the fact that you live in a heavily wooded area that's probably not connected to main civilization. Skills that you could gain on YouTube? Nah! Why would I do that? That's for the normies. What we do, we make those video essays about our personal life experiences, bro. I vocal fry into the microphone to help you continue to do your work, so you subscribe to me. I think that's probably the most careless thing you can do, is living in an area in a region like this. You don't pick up survival skills to be able to work on shit and to give yourself like a head start in a situation like this. I'm not saying you need to be fucking Bear Grylls or that other guy who does the better one, since Bear Grylls apparently was out there with fucking food and shit. The one that goes in and he's just by himself, the other one. I don't think it was called Man vs. No. Outdoorsman? They were both on the Discovery Channel. One went on during prime time, the other one went on during Watershed. Or post-Watershed. I can't remember. The guy's name was Wes something. He was like middle-aged and white. Somebody knows what I'm talking about.
Luckily for me, I have my fiancée, and she's someone that I can be scared around without worrying about giving her a panic attack. On the night of day 2, when the power was out, we finally went to bed only to realize that the small amount of moonlight coming through the window wasn't enough to penetrate that pure, uncanny blackness filling our bedroom. I'm not someone who's really afraid of the dark whatsoever, but when it's pure blackness to where I can't even see my hands an inch away from my face like that, I just get extremely uncomfortable. That level of darkness just does not exist in nature, at least not above ground.
At least on this side of the American continent. Because, you know, over there you might hear something like...
Frankly, it's way too freaky for me, and it makes me feel like I'm tripping balls, and it makes me incredibly claustrophobic to boot. So, as anxious and on edge as she was, my fiancé fashioned a little nightlight for me out of a solo cup and a flashlight, and it was the first time since I started work on that previous video, Honesty, that I slept without any nightmares. Found family has been a pretty prevalent theme in a lot of my videos this year, and while tomorrow's video is going to be all about my found family experience, this whole hurricane thing has been an incredible affirmation of all the things I feel for these people. The protectiveness and nurturing spirit I feel for the kids, the safety and trust that I place in my fiancé, the codependence and camaraderie I feel with the fifth one, let's call her my sister. It's easy to say we're a family, we can get through anything together when times are good, but to see us working together and acting as a family when things are this scary has been a really incredible experience. Honestly, given the fact that flooding isn't an issue that we have to worry about at this particular house, this whole thing has kind of felt like a camping trip to me. And as regular viewers will know, camping is something that I have desperately missed ever since my handicap took hold and made it impossible for me to do normally again. For all the
What's your handicap? Is it the sexual dysfunction you have? Because I would say sexual dysfunction, where you feel like you have to basically bottom yourself out and sexually gratify everyone around you in order to feel like you're a person, is going to make you feel like you can't sit still when you're on a camping trip out in the wilderness. I would definitely say, unless you're all just bunched up in a tent and it's hotter than a sauna in that bitch.
fear and destruction and chaos and uncertainty, this whole experience has been extremely nostalgic for me too. Making shadow puppets and playing my guitar to try and fill the house with music, seeing more stars in the sky than I ever have before with the lights being off all over the region, not being able to distract myself from my situation with the internet or video games, even just resigning myself to not being able to shave my legs. Somehow, all of these horrifying circumstances have given way to an incredibly meditative, emotionally fulfilling headspace for myself.
And they're not allowed to shave their legs. That is when they're able to best be at center with their inner goon.
When you know that there's nothing you can do but try to enjoy the moment and find peace in your surroundings, all the world's pressures tend to just melt away. And to be able to share that experience of fear giving way to emotional triumph with a family who loves me and who I love so dearly, just made me feel like I really made it in this life. I never thought I'd have anything like what I have with these people. I never thought I'd be relied upon and trusted like this. I never thought I'd see that many stars and get to share them with a fiancé who finds just as much meaning in them as I do. I never thought I'd feel this much love from so many people at once. I never thought I'd go camping again. It seems like the better I feel about our situation, the more stressed my daughter is. Last night, we were trying to get up to my parents' house to tell them that we're okay and make sure they're okay. Luckily, we were able to find a path and make sure everybody was safe, but on the way up their road, we managed to get service again. We immediately pulled over to send all of our relevant messages to all the folk who were worried about us, and I sent out a tweet or two letting all of y'all know that we were alive and safe. When we got to my dad's house, we had our prayers answered. We were hoping that they'd have power and we could take a shower and top off our charges. No luck there, but what we did get was a propane tank and a camping stove, plus a couple solar lanterns. After hanging around at my parents' place for a bit, we rushed home and debated looting a destroyed dollar store. Still might end up doing that tonight.
Okay. And? I mean, I don't care that you had to do that, but let's go ahead and just write that down real quick. Boop, boop, bop. Beep bop. Because I don't know why you think I would care that you had to consider looting up a looted out, fucked up store, but you know, do what you gotta do to survive. Because, like, on one hand, you're telling them this in a video that's happening post hoc, that you're recording in real time, that you're framing. We know that you've told us that you're going to frame everything like it as a movie, so you're making it feel like it's a edited vlog of some type. Maybe that's a possible donation push, because when people see it, they're gonna be possibly wanting to give you money for it. But at the same time, if things were like that, I'm going to tell you right now, no hesitation. I'm not going to tell you about it until several months and or years afterwards, but I no hesitation. Because realistically, most of us would be like, you know what? That's great. You didn't have the immediate urge to steal like you normally do. But honestly, I would not have cared if they had to loot a store for supplies and rations. More than likely, if the store had been fucked up, they probably would have put them all out in a place for people to try to get to them if they hadn't been ruined by something like corrupted and corrugated rainwater that possibly could have had things like exaggerations of pollen or pathogens. But you know, that's just me. I have to assume the reason why you're telling us, other than just for details. Because I don't need to know the details.
And cooked up some ramen noodles and soup cans. First hot meal we'd had in a couple of days. Only issue is, our phone service went out very quickly after it came back in. Not the end of the world, we got our messages out to everybody that we needed to, but that's not quite how my daughter saw it. See, part of the reason I feel comfortable calling a 20-year-old my daughter is because she had a seriously stunted upbringing. She was in an
That's definitely not something you would have got out of me. Holy. I feel comfortable calling a woman my daughter. For humor, I'm going to put an asterisk there. You feel comfortable calling a grown woman your child because you have a child that is emotionally stunted. Okay. That is a take. That is definitely a take. That is said like you are Helen Hunt in a slow burn television series. Yes, indeed. If my fucking timeline would grab this picture correctly. There we go. There we are. That is definitely something to say. That is definitely an opinion.
online school up until she graduated and lived out in the sticks, so she never really had the means to make too many friends in real life because she lived...
Welcome, Sonolium. Just came in, only to realize what horror I already know this video. Holy. I thought you said you knew it. Why is it surprising to you? Should be surprising to me. I'm the one who has the most calm reaction here.
In such a secluded place and spent the first 16 years of her life with no social company but her abusive uncle and her grandma, who was well past the end of her rope at that point, and the folks that she met online. She basically saw herself as a netrunner, or I guess an engram from Cyberpunk, only ever existing on the net, and that's the sole means by which she was able to interface with the world. She called it her digital haunt. I still remember just how overwhelmed she was when she first got here to this town, because it was her first time having solid proof that the people she meets in her computer are real people, and that there were places other than her hometown and her digital haunt.
So you're admitting that they came to you after you brought them to your town. Also, I feel kind of bad about typing the words, my daughter is a digital spook. But, you know, we're going to run with it. We're going to run with it. We're going to run with it. Because it's the words that came out of the mouth. It's in context. They were escaping a horrible
home life of potential abuse and moved in with us. That is an admittal that you have brought somebody underneath your bubble, and that you are inherently using your finances to uplift said household. The vectors of abuse, they're still there. The vectors of abuse are still there, even this early in the beginning. Because that's not a found family, bro. That's you actually just making a trans halfway house. It would have been more ethical if basically you were saying you were running your home as though it were that. Because that's not a found family. Especially considering these would be people that you would then be interacting with sexually in your open relationship with your other transgender partner.
This experience has shown me just how badly we need to start working with her on all of that. First thing this morning, she told me that her and my son planned on driving up north, basically just aimlessly searching for propane and cell service. Mind you, we've been getting service in and out ever since last night, and we've got plenty of propane to last us the next 4 or 5 days by my estimate.
My soul is not concerned, Nick. What's my concern is my coffers. Support your niggas today. Because we don't know how many brain cells I have left. We know I only have a few, and I can only click 2 of them together at one point in time. You know that it's very, very, very hard, bro. You know it's very, very hard for my brain to work. Please put dollars in the coffers. We're looking for 10 super chats today. Let's get some active, proactive enacting on this ass. It'll help my soul. And my wallet. And your conscience.
So, in my morning grouchiness, it seemed to me like she was planning on potentially getting lost up north just to send out a few more texts. That isn't really the full story. As I said, my sleepy, grouchy mind kind of oversimplified the situation. I know that there's a lot more going on in her head when she's making these plans than that, but I snapped at her a little bit, and I feel super bad about that.
You feel bad about giving discipline? Okay.
Suppose I should just be happy that the kids didn't decide to just leave without telling us like they did attempting to go to work the day before. It's a bad situation, though. My dad says that we should expect to not have power for another 10 days. I'm a bit more optimistic than that, but I'm still trying to figure out if telling the kids that number is the right call or not. If my daughter's this stressed about things on day 3 of the blackout, I genuinely don't know how manic she'll be hearing that it could be 10 days or more.
Withholding information while being the supposed and literal self-selected figurehead? Damn. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing for you to say and do, bro. That's so crazy. That's so wild. You're definitely not a parent if you're agonizing over things like this. Ooh, buddy. You think telling people details that they may not like to hear is the worst that leadership becomes?
I gave my son a little talk about how to help his sister keep her head on straight, but it's clear that being disconnected like this has been just violent for her psyche. There's a lot of specific trauma for her centered around the people she grew up with, all flipping off all the breakers to get the upper hand in a shouting match, so being without any light is something that's really triggering anxiety. It's something that's got to be handled with a lot of care over a much longer period of time than this destruction is hopefully going to last. Resupplying on
Fund for the brain cell rehab. Thank you, Nick.
Food is going to be an issue we have to address.
Yes, Cecilia. They do have a dad, but they refuse to give them any credit and benefit. They'll talk shit about the mother, and they'll brag about being a better mother than their biological mother. But we don't hear a goddamn thing about their father. Granted, this is the first time that I think I've listened to them refer to the place that is their home as my dad's house. So I don't know if the parents are divorced or separated, or they just focused on motherhood in that opener of the playlist, so they only mentioned relates to the mother. But they have talked almost little to nothing about the father. So to hear that they went to the dad's house to go communicate that they were alive at least tells me at this point in the timeline that they at least were on speaking terms with them, but who knows how much that was because they actually needed to go there, and how much was that to just flex their family unit, as they said that they would be doing so.
Address though. I'd like to think that if we can keep it to one hearty meal a day, we'll be able to stretch our resources long enough that we can wait for the supply chain to restabilize a little bit, but we may very well have to leave that dollar store, like I said. With all the card readers down all over town and the last of cash money having been spent, it might be our only option if it stays like this for a couple more days. It's far from the end of the world if we do end up having to loot some food and candles that we're just going to be thrown in a corporate dumpster anyways, but the name of the game is not taking any unnecessary risks, and there's...
Well, it's just some food and some candles. The corpos don't even care about it. They're gonna throw it away anyways. It was lost profit. So listen, guys. We're ethical thieves, but we're still thieves, okay? Kappa?
definitely some risk involved with looting. Like the night before with the stars, the night of day 3 was really fun for me though. When my dad was heading to bed, we saw that he had a fire going outside with just enough embers to potentially start it up again, so we put about an hour's worth of logs on there and just enjoyed the warmth for a little bit. Talked to the kids about camping, and our poor girl was adamantly opposed to the idea, seemingly traumatized at the prospect of being off the grid even for a night. Managed to convince her to let us set up a tent in the yard one of these nights, once everything's back to normal, so she can try it out under less scary circumstances. Once we got home, we set up the propane stove and cooked some food, and between the fun of cooking with an unconventional setup and how badly I missed camping, it felt really damn nice to have the whole family sat around a pot and a flame, singing songs with my guitar, just enjoying the pure ecstasy of having warm food in us for the first time in 3 days of nothing but cold, uncooked food. As wholesome and loving as the whole situation felt to my fiancé and I, it was clear that my daughter was incredibly anxious about it all, though. I really, really hope she feels a bit better tomorrow night, but her anxiety's so bad even when everything is normal that I can't help but worry she's convinced we're all going to be dead by the end of the night.
Why would they think that? Is this their first time living in Appalachia? If such, why did they come to this region with absolutely no expectation of what would happen in a danger situation that involved woodland survival during the thing of, like, a hurricane? Did you guys not tell them? Did you not prepare them? Are you not capable of pulling the fucking trigger and just saying, listen, suck it the fuck up. I understand that you're worried and I understand you're scared, but the technology ain't that important, goddammit.
Well, day 4 went way better than I thought it would.
Now, this is definitely for attention, and this is probably the most lackadaisical, not putting in effort on appearance that we've gotten thus far. You've got all of your food cans and your staples and your ramen all pictured up around you. You ain't have to do that for the camera. That's for looks. That's for looks.
When I finished up that last journal entry, my fiancée was woken up hours early, being called into work ahead of schedule when she really wanted to just stay here and help the family. She was not in a good mood whatsoever over this, but in order to improve her mood a bit, we sat the family around for a while her and I read chapters from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy to everybody. It was super sweet. Next thing I know, she's at work, and the kids and I are going to the gas station that our daughter works at to try and stock up on snack food and cigarettes. We kind of just needed a win. Well, a win we got. The store was open, and they were finally accepting debit cards, so cash money wasn't a problem anymore. I wound up getting a carton of cigarettes for my fiancé and I, and all the snacks that we possibly could have needed for the next couple of days, as well as plenty of snacks for my fiancé. Unfortunately, junk food was really all that was available at the store, so restocking on actual meals is something that, at the time, we still needed to do, as much as we possibly can. But
I mean, that makes sense. Where most of us broadcasters and YouTubers, we all use digital. Mostly. I think there's $2 sitting on my bathroom counter right now, and that's it. So yeah, that makes sense. You got a bunch of money online that you can't access because your town ain't got digital, and there's no way that you're going to access an ATM after a major hurricane and thunderstorm. And everything's closed down, and the graders aren't working, so you have to hope to stock up on what you can from a convenience store. It was exactly like this during COVID, so that's not that big. Didn't this person used to make gaming videos somehow? She feels too personal to post online as a public figure. Who needs to know about this, lol? I'm pretty sure if they have, that is stuff that came into relevance after we all learned about their transgender open relationship sexual polycule. If you have clips of this, please post them into the server. Anywho, I'm not shocked that they had to wait off to buy resources. However, I do find it interesting that the person who you brought into your household also happens to be working at a gas station so that you could go loot shit up. And then for the purposes of the camera, you decided to put all of your rations around yourself, to remind people, help, I've been harassed. Potentially send me money on Patreon. It does not go over my head.
in the meantime, spirits were high and tasty snacks were all around us. We just had to stop at my dad's house to grab a couple other things that he wanted to give us.
Also, more importantly, you buy food, but you're also wasting money on cigarettes? That's a bit of a choice. Sure, stress relief, whatever.
Way there, my son was on the phone with his biological dad, being misgendered and disrespected left, right, and center, all while being told to ditch us and go stay with him for a couple weeks. Hearing my son say, no, these guys are my family, I can't leave them to his flesh and blood, and then defend himself against the misgendering when his dad wouldn't let it go was really amazing. He's come such a long way when it comes to standing up for himself.
My biological dad wanted to make sure that I was taken care of and said, son, come home. I'm trying to make sure that you're taken care of. And my son, dad, daughter said, no, this is my real family. I was so touched that I was able to successfully groom these people into attaching themselves to me like a parasite on my hip. Because that's all the fuck I heard, bro. You're happy that your biological child chose you over their you're translogical. Let's go translogical. Your translogical child chose you over their biological father, and you are go-girling them standing up against misgendering when they are concerned about their fucking kid possibly being in a place where they can't see them and can't take care of them. That's something for you to be proud of. You're happy about that.
Needless to say, though, he was pretty bummed about it all. I sent my dad a text ahead of our arrival saying something along the lines of, hey, I know it's still a little weird for you, but I think our boy could really benefit from hearing you call him your grandson tonight. Things have been super rough with his biological family lately. Dad didn't quite feel comfortable calling this guy that he only met a couple of times before his grandson, but he put so much effort into making my kids feel like they had that familial love. Dad was showing my son how to poke at the fireplace, just like he did when I was a kid, and listening intently as my daughter info-dumped to him about her creepypastas and her writing. It really was just the sweetest thing ever. I even heard my son say yes sir to my dad a couple times. And of course, on our way to go out and bring the cigarettes to my fiance's work, he hugged my parents, calling them grandma and grandpa. My daughter even said that my dad was, quote, everything she thought her uncle was when she was a kid.
Okay, so there's a positive and a negative here. Stale in the cookie, but fresh in the cream. Fresh in the cream. So your biological dad puts his comfort and his own mentality for your lifestyle over his personal feelings of ick. To try to grant some kind of comfort to your children, yet you can't show your mother or your father any support or respect in any work moving forward. I find this extremely curious, because supposedly the mom cares more about trying to make Kodak moments so that they can try to hold up some semblance of normality.
Carl is friend, not
He is
food.
friend shaped.
I'm something shaped. Thank you, Megalag. You try to put some amount of pressure on your father to support your children, but you're so disrespectful of your mother that you don't show your mother any respect. Because, hey, where's your moms? If your parents don't live together, very interesting. I wonder why that is. More importantly, your dad puts in effort to try and support you despite his uncomfortability. So, let's follow through here. You expect them to do this simply because you asked. And granted, they don't feel comfortable with it, but they do it anyways. But you're not willing to flex in the other direction, it seems. In fact, the fact that you didn't want to flex in the other direction was probably the biggest sticking point at the first video. So I wonder what changed between here and there that caused you to come to the conclusion to do that in the future.
It was the first time that I'd seen my daughter smile since this whole thing started. In spite of her chronic anxiety, she looked totally relaxed sat by that fire with my dad. More relaxed than I've seen her in like over a year, to be honest. My son has always been really on board with the found family stuff, with us being his moms and helping him mature and learn to handle adulthood. But this,
after I accepted that I was not going to continue just looking at them as a sexual creature, except when it's the weird part of the night.
this was, I think, the first time that my daughter really started to see that there isn't just security, fun, and trust in family, but love. Obviously, she knows that we love her, but I think her preconceptions about herself have made that really difficult for her to accept. This time, though, it looked like she could really feel the love coming from these new extensions to her family. Seeing how happy my fiance was with the giant bag of sweets and cigarettes I gave her at work was just the icing on the cake to my day. Day 4 started out really rough, but man, it ended incredibly. We even got gas for the 5th family member's car. However, storm clouds loom over the horizon, and not the same type of storm clouds which started this whole thing. In a couple hours, I'm going to be meeting my son's biological father for the first time, and I'm going to be having a talk with him. My only real goal...
Oh no.
...member's car.
Okay.
However,
Transition phrase.
Storm clouds loom over the horizon, and not the same type of storm clouds which started this whole thing. In a couple hours, I'm going to be meeting my son's biological father for the first...
What a way to open the next section. Fucking. I'm going to have a talk with the man I was happy I am replacing in my son's life.
First time, and I'm going to be having a talk with him. My only real goal is to set a good impression so he knows that his son, even if he doesn't consider himself to have a son, is in good hands.
Well, let's see here. The first impression, when they were trying to find out about their child, you did not push for their child to go back to their parent and make sure that they were okay so they could be taken care of under them. And now you're trying to go there to convince them that you're actually putting them in good hands and not bad hands. I'm going to go ahead and say that first impression is right but fucked. Bent over, gaped. There is no way that you have set off a good impression based on what they will now learn about you in context. None. Especially considering that there's misgendering, blase, blase, blase. I don't see any way how that works out for you well, blase, blase, blase. It appears to me some shit that you cannot put up, in which you cannot even be able to also argue either. So it's already fucked no matter way you put it. You could probably be the nicest person possible, and he's still gonna be like, what the fuck are you doing with my child? And why is he calling you mommy? You are clearly a man.
However, I also hope to get a chance to really talk with him about transitioning. I very seriously doubt that I have the people skills to fix the relationship between a trans man and a transphobic father in the hour or two that we're gonna have together, but...
Okay, but here's the question. This is very important. I'm gonna write it down. How do you know? How do you know that they are transphobic? Because calling them transphobic, because they do not understand their child and their lifestyle choices, is not the same thing as them supposedly being transphobic. Because, I'm going to have to agree with Megalag here, because I was about to say the sentence before you typed it. I'm pretty sure the reason you're going to have a bad first impression is that the dad's going to think that you fucking groomed their child. Okay? Because again, the children are trans. So, the 20-year-old boy is actually 19-year-old boy is actually a 19-year-old girl, female to male. So, the assumption would be you are the factor for why they are there and why they're behaving this way. So, an hour-long talk is more or less them sizing you up. I don't think you're going to convince them. In my opinion.
God damn it, I have to try. I have to show him how his lack of acceptance makes my boy feel, how unloved he feels. I need to show him that accepting his son's transition is a condition of mutual love that is completely impossible to circumvent.
Well, see, that's not love, Leadhead. Either you accept your child and me. No, I can write this sentence more diabolically. Either you accept your child and accept your child's rear accepting me, or you're just a Nazi. There you go. Lay that one on the table.
If I can't pull it off, then at least I'll know I tried, but the shower that we were promised at that house is far from my first priority when I take the kids over there in a few hours. I'll report back and let you know how it goes. If last night was the beginning of a change in our luck, then I suppose I can only hope for the best and, as always, prepare for the worst. Well, I didn't get a chance to talk to his dad. He was absent.
That's funny. That, I don't get what you say about that. That's comedy. That's comedic timing. Okay. I didn't get to confront the bigot. He was absent. I said that sentence over again from the top. Yanni boy! I'm Yanni boy. What's the context of the video? There are 2 whole live streams that are context to this. However, this is the 3rd video in a series of 8, of which there will be a 4th following this, that gets us into the mindset of the sexual debauchery of Leadhead and how they consider themselves a matriarchal head of a 5-person family unit that started from them sexually cheating on their emotional partner and then saying, listen, your depression was so bad, I just had to cheat on you. Now, Carl, can I fix her? Can we fix her? Define fix. Because what I think fixing is not what we think fixing is. Because in order for me to fix that, I'm going to need some astro glue. I'm going to need a brick. I'm going to need 2 dowels. About, where is that dowel? I'm going to need 2 dowels. About, about this thick, and I'm gonna need 64 inches of tape. That's what I'm gonna need to save them. But what you and I think saving is in this instance is not the same thing, Megalag. Anywho. Back to it.
That sure didn't stop the showers from being the most amazing thing I've ever experienced, though. I never, ever, ever, ever want to go half of that time without a shower again. I sent a few texts to our boy's father, though. I invited him to have a meal at our house to get to know us, offered to help him learn a little bit about transgender folk, and had a little back and forth between his...
I really do not like the way that they insert the word folk into the conversation, as though it's the same thing as being like, African Americans. Carl can fix them all with a riding whip. Listen, I can fix them with something. It ain't gonna be a whip. Whip's too easy. Whip's too easy. Down here in Carl and Carlists, we believe in psychological torture. Stale in the cookie, but fresh in the cream. Thank you again. Kristen J is less of a micromanager than her. True, just super true. Pretty sure he's less kinky, too. No physical objects are necessary.
Adamance and having a say in his child's gender, and me desperately pleading with him to listen to his son's feelings and not try to stamp out his agency as an adult, because that's the only thing that's going to preserve their relationship at this point.
Please, don't stamp out the agency of your child. Please, let me keep getting on their backside. Please, let me break them off. Please. No, I don't think the only way that you can preserve the adult relationship of the transgender child to the father that might at best not understand
their sexuality is for you specifically and explicitly to be the person responsible for their up and comings and indoctrination into the worldview. I don't think actually they need to turn you over or turn him over to you in order for them to truly get on the same page. I think that's antithetical to what actually needs to happen. Leadhead. But it has nothing to do with you. Why are you even inserting yourself? This is not a conversation that you need to be a part of as, quote, the family head of the household. You just need to be in the background, supporting. And when they go to talk to them about it, if they decide they don't want to be a part of it, then that's what it is. But at the same time, if he tries to press charges through him to turn the child back over to you, even though they are a grown adult, so they'd be emancipated at this point, it still has nothing to fucking do with you. Why do you keep inserting yourself as though you have to be the voice of reason? It's not your job. It's super not your job.
While I love seeing him as my son, I really don't want him to have to lose a parent. On that note, a big theme of last night was me trying to help the kids feel that family love by visiting with my parents, and so I brought the boys over to visit both of them. Him and my biological sister got into a little fight, just one or two things exchanged. He said something that touched on some baggage that my sister was carrying that he wasn't privy to, and she snapped at him for it, seriously hurting his feelings. It was the first time they'd met. I asked her to fill me in on what happened, and then I asked her to talk with him about it and explain why she was so offended by what he said, and she refused. It was kind of emotional. At that moment, I felt like I could just see the writing on the wall. My biological family just isn't capable of talking.
It's like the fucking interlude in an emotional scene from any of your fucking teen dramas. Carl, is this person possessed by demons? No. Leadhead is a sexual deviant. They are a transgender puppy girl who has admitted in part 2 that they have a sexual urge where they feel like they are not pleasing everyone unless they basically sexually power bottom to every person involved to make sure that they like them. They are basically the girl who's like, I can prove that you like me. Please, let me suck your cock. It is a clear choice. And part of that choice here sounds like a desire to possess control. I'm not going to say control freak, because you see, control freaks just do it. They want you to feel like it's your decision so that they have full access and permission to act a fucking fool. Because that was the point that we learned the other way. Now I'm gonna say definitely go alongside Just a Girl here, that they want them to cut ties with the parent, and I'm also gonna go with Cecilia and say that it feels like well, not Cecilia, Bolster said it, like Celestian philosophy, because the point that was very clear when they communicated about how when they were talking to the fiance, when they started the conversation that broached opening up the relationship, every single statement afterwards was, my fiance wrote off on this, my fiance's gone over every part of this script, my fiance knows, my fiance knows, my fiance knows, as though, and probably explicitly saying, see, my fiance knows that I'm a slut, so to unzip your pants, let me suck your cock. As though that justified every decision and each bit of forthcoming information possible. Even if the tone is honesty, there's clearly some things that you don't need to tell the public audience, and yet every single bit of that was explicitly saying, because they know, and because they're open with it, and because I gave them a hall pass, that justifies me telling you about every single nasty thing I've ever done. But more specifically, in terms of that permissive state, this person has chosen me to be their parent. Therefore, I will put myself in the parental role. So, I don't want to replace him. I would prefer not to replace him. Would be a more proper way to frame how they just said it. But I don't want him to lose a parent. ... But I don't want to lose a parent, but if he ends up losing a parent because his dad's a bigot, well, that's just fine by me. If you're really a parent, that should terrify the shit out of you, honestly. Because you do not want people to have to choose you over the other. Like, you would have to live with that every step of the way. Where every single time you made a decision that had to do with your understanding of motherhood and responsibility, that you understand that you are effectively causing consequences and sacrifices. Where people have to prioritize, and people are prioritizing other people over themselves. So if a family ends up disowning a person who's involved with you, and you act as though that's a moment of pride, oh my, look at my little man, look at my little girl man, look at my little girl man staying up to their biological parent and choosing and prioritizing me over them. They would rather be disowned than look at us as not a family. Aww. Come over here and let me suck your dick, son. It's not snappy. Doesn't click as bad. How does it, chat? Because remember, at the same time that they're saying this is so nice and so predictive, remember that they were looking at them as a sexual creature. By their own admittance, by their own words. So, we're talking unironic incest hentai levels of he chose me over them. Because they never said that they ever stopped. Okay? So, like, you know what? I reject this energy. I reject the spirit. I reject this energy. I reject the spirit. This is the type of shit that gives transgenders a bad name.
About their problems in an adult way, seemingly. Shortly thereafter, my son told me that he wasn't super comfortable with trying to see my biological family as his family. He just wasn't comfortable with the tension he felt in the air with my bio family and told me that he would prefer they not become such a big part of his life.
And then he is now choosing to explicitly say that they do not want to be involved. Doesn't quite sound like a person who's really accepting of a family. Sounds more like they're going with the flow of things, and this makes them feel like they have a biological and emotional ick. So they're just pushing in the opposite direction.
That must have been horrifying for him to say, especially since it was very clear that making him feel some family love was my whole motivation in bringing him there, but he told me how he felt, regardless of his fear. This 19-year-old boy had the emotional maturity to confront his 26-year-old mother figure when he wasn't comfortable with something. Meanwhile, my sister, who's even older than me, wasn't comfortable confronting a 19-year-old. I almost cried with happiness and pride and crawled down and told my parents that we had to go now. That self-respect, that willingness to talk about uncomfortable subjects in the name of reaching a resolution, I can't help but feel like that's something that we instilled in the boy. We're the ones who taught him how to do that. That's exactly what I was talking about in the honesty video that I published.
Yes, you did. You taught him how to be rebellious. You taught him how to be rebellious and choose to distance themselves from other people and choose the transgender mother figure over their own family. You have successfully groomed them. Congratulations.
Just before this one. This is why my found family, young though its bonds may be, kind of already feels stronger than my biological family ever has. My biological family's...
Well, here's the question. What happens when the money runs out, Leadhead? Serious question. What happens when the money runs out? What happens when the money runs out and the sex ain't as slamming? What happens then? What happens when the clout goes away, the relevancy goes away, and you're not able to, use shock value to get people involved in the situation, and people just start documenting what you're saying, just mentioning to people offhand, not specifically even to trigger them, but just be like, hey, yo, did you know this exists? What happens then? Will they feel the same way? Will it be the same way? I don't think it will.
Stuck together. My found family has grown together. That distinction makes me so incredibly proud. Like, I found my own little piece in this universe. Like, I've created for myself the type of life and relationships that I've always wanted but thought were just impossible, especially for me. On the way home, power had been restored at the gas station. That's only a minute or two up the road from our house, so I expect that we'll have power within the next 24 hours, and my journal will end there. In the meantime, though, we've got plenty of water, plenty of food, plenty of propane, and a decent amount of gasoline. Honestly, things couldn't be going any better. I just hope that we can reach some sort of understanding with the boy's father.
There's no way.
Things stabilize.
You can't use that feature of that like that when using picture-in-picture. I don't think you should be using candles for fucking candlelight like that if you are unsure that you don't or do want them running through the night. And I don't think that for the bit in transition you put them out like that. That's just me. I'm not writing that down. That's just something I've noticed. Just more ways to make yourself look like a trans fail daughter. It doesn't work with me. I know what real fail daughters look like and act like. I've been writing a video about them, basically. Everything is so performative. Every single optic, every single decision, it's so performative.
A little after day 4. On the morning of day 5, we managed to get a great haul from a grocery store that had its doors open again that morning, so we had ample candles, water, food. Things stopped changing quite so much every day. The situation wasn't as dynamic. Everyone had their ups and downs, but a routine of sorts had started to form. My fiancé would cook us all breakfast in the mornings, and we'd all sit around on the porch listening to my guitar and cooking soup around the propane stove at night. Unfortunately, the power still hasn't come back on, so we still have to be incredibly tactical about how we flush the toilets and keep the dishes clean. In fact, just last night our boy's head was so itchy that I had to wash his hair on the porch with nothing but a lot of water and a cup and some shampoo. To be honest, I kind of hope that the power stays out long enough that I get the opportunity to do that with everybody in the house. It was a really sweet little motherhood moment. Today, though...
Motherhood is when you have to wash someone else's hair out because you don't have enough running proper water to be able to do it. I feel like you are taking a little bit too much pride in just basic shit and finding emotions in things that do not require or do not call for them. In my personal opinion, sure, for normal people, things like that probably would evoke that kind of emotion. However, in this context, I don't think it really needs it. Personally. Because sure, you got to wash your son's hair, and you're looking forward to the potential that you could wash everyone's hair like that. Is motherhood washing a person's hair because they feel like they can't do it themselves? Did you need to wash their hair? Like they wouldn't have figured out how to do it themselves? No, Phil's granddaughter is mine. You can't steal it, poster. It's my word. No!
Got another thing on my mind. The boy's dad quit replying to my text on day 4 and called him, suddenly having changed his mind on me being able to handle the brake job that the boy needs. So, I guess trans women can only fix a car if they haven't also tried to talk to you about your child's gender.
You try to lecture a biological parent about their child as a transgender woman, and so you get annoyed and upset and petty that they rescinded any assistance that they would have offered to help with when it came to handling and the tune-up of a vehicle. I'm gonna go ahead and put that under get fucked and bent and cry and seethe about it. Because they don't need to do things for you when you are a grown adult. You can figure it the fuck out. If you then try to put that as a pettiness clip of, well, it seems that this man just can't handle strong women. Again, cope, seethe, and fuck yourself. You are not learning the consequences from which you need to stand for. That is the opposite of what you want to do there, Leadhead. That sounds like not only just pettiness, that sounds like vindication. Like you're vindicated that, he's revealed his transphobic nature. Well, maybe he just doesn't like you. I'm turning into Patrick Starr.
Maybe Trans Bob, he just doesn't like you. Maybe Trans Bob, you can learn to know your distance and stay inside your own business. Maybe it's the way you act. Maybe it's the way you look in a mirror.
The chutzpah
to assume that it must be transgenderism and hatred of transgenderism, instead of just you being an annoying person who's extremely manipulative.
God, I shudder to think about the fact that he probably assumes I'm a liberal and not an actual leftist. Well, whatever, I know how to fix a car. To start out the day, my son and I took the daughter to work and went to grab some sandwiches now that Chick-fil-A's opened up again. Then we got to work on his car.
Excuse me, say it again!
Only fix a car if they haven't also tried to talk to you about your child's gender. God, I shudder to think about the fact that he probably assumes I'm a liberal and not an actual leftist. Well, whatever, I know how to fix a car. To start out the day, my son and I took the daughter to work and went to grab some sandwiches now that Chick-fil-A's opened up again. Then we got to work.
I need appropriate music for this reaction. The homosexual, adjacent, and transsexual individual. They buy food from an organization that they claim is hateful and bigoted. But apparently it's good enough for them. Better comedy could not be written. Better comedy could not be written. Chick-fil-A stay written. So good, even the transgenders gotta put it in a system.
To work on his car. Teaching him how to change his brakes and being able to have that classic experience of asking my kids to fetch tools for me was yet another super sweet feeling.
Oh god, that's definitely not the takeaway you should have there, Leadhead. Okay, so. $23.50. You are bragging that the biodad wants nothing to do with you. And rescinded his involvement because you keep trying to lecture him about his child. Then you actively do the fucking yittercope about what you think he thinks. You never met him. And then you support a business that is against your collective politics as a socialist, communist content creator. Praxis is a fancy word to this person. It is not something they live. There is no world where you can just try to get through that sentence like you did not just say the shit that you said. The fact that you said the shit that you said before that makes me notice it even bigger than when you just fucking said it. Which faux fake ass fucking lumberjack outfits.
We got the brakes on, and during the test drive I took it on before I handed the keys back to him, we decided to go back to his biological father's house for another shower.
And then you go back to his dad's place to go bum another fucking shower off of him after disrespect. If it was me, bro. Bro, if it was me. If it was me. If only I were that dad. If only, bro. No. No. No, I'd have a restraining order. I'd have a restraining order. I would have a restraining order.
After all, both of us were absolutely filthy with automotive dirt, and just washing our hands proved to be difficult while trying to ration the water. To be honest, I was surprised that his dad was still okay with me going over there after he quit replying to my texts and tried to wrestle control of the brake job situation back from his son.
Well, that tells you something, doesn't it? We're writing that down, chat. I can't believe he used his water shower after how I acted and assumed and treated him. This tells us a couple of things, Leadhead. It tells us that he's not as vindictive or evil as you claim that he must fucking be.
The shower was, just as it was 5 days ago, incredible. It was just the boy and I who went over there this time, and everyone else was asleep or at work. We managed to get a load of laundry done too, but as the clothes were beginning to dry, the moment we were both anxious to avoid was met. As we were sitting on the couch waiting for the dryer, the boy's dad got home. Well, he might have been avoiding my text, but now, for the first time, we were face to face. I braced myself for confrontation, yet I was met with none. This stranger, who his son is willing to call family, was sitting on his couch and he just ignored me. Didn't even make eye contact. The last thing I told him over text...
I'm gonna make a prediction. I think Leadhead wanted there to be confrontation. I think Leadhead wanted confrontation, and that when the father did not give them confrontation, and basically any conversation that was levied as though they were inserting themselves in with their child, he simply he gray rocked them. And the fact that he continued gray rocking them is something that pissed them off to no regard, because they wanted the conflict. They wanted the conflict. That's pathetic. That's fucking pathetic. I can't believe that this man would not lock his child out of his house so that we could be able to use the water and have conversations and use laundry and shit. Because according to you, he's just an evil transphobic bigot. So if he was a transphobe, why would he still have not immediately changed the locks once the child made it clear that they had no intention of coming to the home? Seems a bit antithetical, don't you think?
Was that I've seen families of almost every trans person I know be driven apart by parental transphobia, and that if you force someone to choose between their identity and their family, they'll almost always choose their identity. He chose to ignore those texts, and he chose to ignore me now in person too. Well, that didn't sit right with me. Regardless of how much I wanted to talk to him about accepting his son's transition, I also just needed to thank him for the shower, and so I approached him. To be honest, I was scared shitless and extremely uncomfortable with the situation. My fiancé and I have essentially taken over as parents to this man's son, and the boy has told me adamantly what his boundaries with his dad are. He doesn't want his dad to try and manipulate him into getting away from us, because we make him feel safe and hopeful in ways that his dad just doesn't. So, while the dad brought up all sorts of different scenarios in which the two of them would be alone together, I, one after the other, swallowed my fear and cordially kept control in the hands of our son and myself. You want to take him to the mechanic to get his brakes done? Oh, no need. He helped me change his brakes this morning. You want him to go to a doctor's appointment with you? Oh, that would be his chest x-ray. It was a follow-up to the appointment I took him to get the inhaler for his asthma. Don't worry, we'll handle that. Gotta say, I'm surprised that you never helped him get an inhaler before this moment. You know when he sticks his tongue out, it's because he's having trouble breathing, right? Oh, you want us to come over and eat at your place now? No, that's alright. You work hard. You should just come over to our place, and my fiancé and I can make you a nice home-cooked meal. Frankly, it was one of the most emotionally intense situations I've been in this year. I felt absolutely fucking horrible for what happened in that apartment today. I know that from his perspective, his quote-unquote daughter is just trying to cut him out of the picture over some silly fad that's like cross-dressing or something.
Their daughter has moved in with a group of other transsexuals, and apparently seems to be behaving in a way that is unto him like a sex orgy. Since you admitted that you are basically having a sex orgy. So yes! Yes! Those are the fears of a parent!
And here I was drawing a line in the sand between the two of them in his own kitchen. That is probably how he saw it, I'd imagine. The reality...
Well, it wouldn't be that far off. How would you feel if somebody came into your home and told you, oh, don't worry about your son and daughter, they're going to be in my great hands. And even without you needing to put on the sexual perspective of the behavior that you're committing in, when nobody can see y'all motherfuckers in your privacy, they would still be worried about it, whatever fear would exist. Maybe if you felt that, maybe then you could get it. But at this current time, you don't get it. Because you don't see where he's coming from.
of the situation, though, is that he's become a borderline absentee father and is adamant to stop his son from making his own decisions as an adult, and driven a wedge between the two of them to the point where the son is more comfortable and feels more at home with my fiancé and I than he does him. And I was trying my absolute hardest to stop him from driving the wedge between them even deeper by trying to take control away from his son in situations where he's clearly demonstrated he's okay and capable of wielding control responsibly. Our son has chosen his dad to be one of the only
it's not your decision, and it's not your choice. It's between them. You need to see your way the fuck out of it.
Biological family members he leaves the door open to. And as painful and unfair as it felt for me to play the role that I played in today's conversation, my entire motivation was to make my son feel safe around his father so that he would keep that door open. Still, with the conversation done, I was a little shook to say the least. The man was nearly twice my age, and all the while my hair was still drying from the shower he so graciously let me take at his house. That was a lot. I think I did the right thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of imposition that you had there. This is high disrespect.
Son's gratitude for how I handled the situation speaks volumes to me, but I don't think I'm ever going to get over how morally gray today felt. That's something I can ponder in bed, though. I'm fucking starving.
Consider how I feel about the fact that I kept trying to manipulate a man out of giving up rights of their child. Nah, I'm hungry. That shit can wait for fucking shower curtain bed thoughts, bro. Ramen!
Power
Ramen!
flickered on for half a second. 4 hours later, I was still trying to hold faith that I didn't just imagine it all when the whole house lit up again. Fans whirred to life, the soft hum of the refrigerator filled the kitchen, and this subtle electrical orchestra that I had long since tuned out was once again crystal clear to me. I'd forgotten how many things just buzzed and clicked and hummed away in the background in a normal house. It felt damn good to be able to plug in my phone, but somehow, seeing all those lights I'd so intricately strung up around the porch lit up again just made me sad. Even though I'm a YouTuber and easily the one who's most into video games in the house, this whole hurricane just left me surprised to see that I'm probably the least technology dependent on anyone in the house. While, yeah, flushing a toilet whenever I want and knowing that whatever happens, warm food and a shower are never too far away is really calming, there was a part of me that just didn't want to go back. This has been a really scary couple of weeks, one of the scariest of my life, but we all grew so much closer over the course of it. Reading a book with the family, sitting around a gas stove playing guitar and singing songs, just talking with nobody staring at their phones, sharing the joy of a warm meal when such things were not guaranteed, washing my son's hair by hand with nothing but a cup and a lot of water, my fiancé holding me in bed as the shadows surrounding us crept closer and closer with the flickering of the candle, watching our daughter get more and more comfortable without the internet, seeing the night sky blackened like nothing I'd ever seen in nature before the absence of electric lights, and sharing those stars with the woman I love. Well, my list of responsibilities and worries has never been as dense as it was over these last 2 weeks, but man, that was one of the most special weeks of my entire life. Whatever happens moving forward, now that things are somewhat resembling normalcy once again, I'm going to talk to the family about having an offline day once a week where we live like this again. No phones, just a fire with some food cooking over it, singing songs together to the tune of my guitar, just simply loving each other without any of the complications that come with worrying about maximizing our dopamine dosage with a bit of social media.
I cross-reference now, back to the other side of the document. Zoom, 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 zoom. I will transcend the boundaries of motherhood. I will become the Overmon 1452. I will never let myself become corrupted the same, with that fear thoroughly philosophized away in my head. Am I going to have to be a mother? Okay, I'm going to like it. I wanted to keep the tradition of making everyone watch a movie of my choosing, but I had to stop the movie to comfort the children. I wanted to have joy and for them to feel as committed as I am to making everything function and work. And after I understood this, I understood my mother, and I knew that I would decide about my family's collective happiness via mental health and performative family time for my sake. So, where on that nexus of conspiracy does this befall? Does this fall to you're going to be better than your mom, to God, mom, gosh, why are you being so hard on me? Or are we just coping at the point of like your own personal concern? Because this is obviously behind that one, so maybe you evolve into it, but I think this is the raw straight through that we've gotten thus far in the raw emotions. Jesus, I'm still yawning. I might actually have to stop after we get to the end of this. Certainly, on the matrices of your decision making, sacrificing the relationship of your trans child's biological parent, definitely that should be up there with do not cross this line unless I'm sure. And on that surety, it should be based on the question of them talking to you without them present, not you trying to talk at them and lecture them
or however long you took trying to understand why you behave the way you behave, I don't think there'll ever be a reason to why you behave the way you behave. That's just me.
While I know that thousands and thousands of people lost so much, in some cases even everything as a result of this destruction, my family and I wound up in a more fortunate, more privileged position, and I'm not going to deny myself my gratitude for that fact. As stressful as this whole experience has been, I can't think of a single thing that we've really lost amidst all of the destruction, but...
You know, other than the trust and safety and boundary that a parent has for their own child, but who's fucking counting?
I can think of a million things we gained. And while this might lock me in as the boring mom of the family, you can bet your ass I'm going to be fighting to keep those things from leaving our household as we settle back into normal, modern life. This right here, this tribulation and this triumph over it, is what family's all about. I'm going to go order us all a pizza now that I can do that again. Yo, y'all still doing deliveries? Okay, can we get a large pizza with, thin crust with
pepperonis.
Okay, pepperoni.
We'll have whatever shoddy 7.
Okay, shoddy.
Olives?
Okay, olives and babe.
Mushrooms, please.
Mushrooms and sausage. 45 minutes? Okay, wait, let me get that for you. So, 4, 3.
And once again, we end on the portion where it is them flexing the money that they're making off of people on Patreon, paying for them to live like this. And in this case, flexing them in the background just off camera. You know, I'm noticing that not a single one of them seems to want to go on camera. Now, of course, I know that's because Leadhead is the person on the content. But you do understand how hilarious that is, that you just basically put out material, or you had to put out material, that basically showed that you didn't respect the father, you didn't respect his agency as a father, and that you didn't respect the responsibility that they had to protecting their child, and that you were too busy telling them, respect their agency, respect their agency, respect their agency. You actively bragged about, quote, being the quirky mom that make people understand your way of being. Like, you got that, right, Leadhead? Certainly, you don't take it for granted. There's extra sections here in the back, but if it's like, yeah, it's the same as what we get before. It's them telling you about other messages that they wrote inside of this, and then reading out more people from the Patreon list. You know, they used to be believable. They used to be believable. They used to be something you had to work for. Something you had to earn. Well, I don't know if we can free the city, but I can tell you goddamn what, with all the powers of Sonic Team combined, we can escape the city. Because the thing that I find very interesting on the end of each of these, every time, is that they seem to end the exact same way every time. Literally, let's see here. Go back to the start here. Watch me replace my mother as I decide that I know how to be a mom. And I disrespect what motherhood is. Watch me as I brag about the fact that I convinced my sexual partner to stay with me. Look at them. Look at how happy they are. Look at all that money and support you're offering me. I love that I was able to flex my money and my monetary involvement with my iPhone, because that is an iPhone. I can tell that's an iPhone, because that ain't no goddamn Android. Watch me as I flex my money and I brag about how I'm just the boring mom of the family, trying to concern myself with people's well-being and goodwill and being, but also listen to how I disrespect a father figure trying to take care of their daughter, and how sporadically I never talk about my parent. I, as the trans daughter, don't demonstrate the understanding that I've somehow come to with my dad. All this shit does not fail my attention. Clearly, humble bragging is the choice that Leadhead likes when it comes to flexing about the things that they can do. Would like to see a photo of their mom. Something tells me in dressed and presented in a similar way to how she dresses now.
I don't know. I don't know. I am still feeling woozy, though. Let's see if I can be able to thug it out.
I did something amazing last night.
Oops, I'm kind of a medical mystery. Give me your energy, chat! Give me your energy. Try to get through this.
I took my girlfriend up to a fast food restaurant, and then later in that same night...
Damn, that is a rough green screen. That is a really rough green screen.
I drove up to my parents' house to get a piece of mail that I needed, and then I stopped at a gas station to get some late-night snacks for my friends and I, and I even talked to the clerk at the gas station about a JoJo's tabletop campaign that I've been planning with everybody since I overheard him talking to another customer about anime. I came home to resounding congratulations from everybody in my life, and I went to bed with this immense sense of pride and just a fire in my belly that I carried up to the moment that I wrote these words. By the end of this video, I think you'll understand why this was such an amazing accomplishment for me. Here's your content warning, though. If you get empathetically nauseous from hearing people describe their experiences with drugs or roller coasters or anything like that, you might want to skip to this time code. I'm about to describe the worst thing that's ever happened to me. The moment that's had a bigger influence on my life than anything I've experienced in my 26 years.
You mean besides the sexual grooming and your sexual dysfunction and your need to hyper power bottom for every person around you that you feel like you need to earn the respect and attention of? Even worse than that? Some fucking nausea? Some nausea? Okay.
Bigger than transitioning, bigger than finding love or a new family, bigger than anything. While I'm speaking candidly, I'd also just like to say that no, this is not the video that's going to be cutting into me deeper than anything I've ever made before that I teased in the last video. You'll know when that one starts. So, about 8 years ago, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 4, and suddenly I felt a little bit nauseous, and I was just sweating like a pig. I went outside to breathe in some of that cold winter air, and I decided to head to...
Here comes the music. Get ready to be emotionally manipulated, chat.
Book. Yara 12, as you... I did something amazing last night. I took a friend, carried up to the... bigger than the video that's going to be cutting into me deeper than any... a little bit nauseous, and I was just sweating like a pig. I went outside to breathe in some of that cold winter air, and I decided to head to bed early that night. Of course, I needed a shower first on account of all the sweating. As the water in the shower warmed up and the bathroom started filling with steam, I collapsed to the floor. I hadn't passed out, but I was just extremely dizzy. My vision was spinning in a way that, ironically, I can only visually compare with the GTA 4 drunk camera. I'll shrink it down here so that you don't have to get sick too. It was comparable to the way that your vision spins when you're just blackout drunk and you're right about to cross the threshold into not remembering anything else that happens for the night. That's a rough situation, but when you're that drunk, it's pretty easy to just shrug it off. I wasn't so fortunate. I was completely sober, not even any weed in my system. I reached over the tub to turn off the shower so that the steam would stop, stripped off what remained of my clothes, and lied there desperately pressing every possible inch of my bare skin against the cold tiles of the bathroom floor for what felt like an hour, only ever moving to crawl to the toilet to throw up or to throw a towel over my back for a minute or two. As hot as I felt, I was freezing cold. The rest of the time, I was just laying there, staring at the dirty and hard-to-clean bolts which secure the toilet to the floor, trying my absolute best to keep my gaze locked on one particular piece of grime, as some sort of way to mitigate the ratchet cranking of my vision. I would try closing my eyes every now and then, but every time I did, it felt even worse, like I could feel my body being dragged around the floor even as I was perfectly still. After what felt like hours lying perfectly stationary on that floor, but couldn't have realistically been more than 1 hour, I heard footsteps around the house. Somebody was awake. While I could have called my family at any point, I was convinced that it would pass sooner rather than later. Besides, none of them are particularly good at noticing their phones ringing in the first place. So, in spite of my pride, I...
Wasn't that horrible? I fell on the floor, chat. But rather than call for help, I just thugged that shit out. They wouldn't have answered anyways. What an opinion that tells us a lot about how that home structure actually functions.
moaned out to what I recognized to be my father's footsteps for help. He helped me walk, wrapped up in my towel, to the Murphy bed that was just outside the bathroom back then. He brought me a ginger ale, a bit of steak, and a banana, and a 5-gallon bucket to throw up in. Unfortunately, one sip of the ginger ale, one bite of the banana, one whiff of the steak was all it took for me to throw it all up. Upon further examination, we found out that I couldn't even keep down saltine crackers or plain rice cakes or even water. Whatever was wrong with me, I would just have to wait for my body to get over it. Food and drink were not going to help me here. So there I was again, lying stationary, freezing my ass off, only this time sweating through the sheets. I was once again doing my absolute best to not move an inch or close my eyes or let my pupils wander more than a degree or two in any direction. Now that I had a cushiony pillow and a mattress under my head rather than the unyielding bathroom floor, I noticed that every movement I made anywhere in my body would reverberate through the bedding, and I'd feel it in my head, triggering more vomiting. Just wiggling my toes made me sick at this point. After about 3 hours of this, I finally got what I wanted, and I fell asleep. Upon waking up in the middle of the night, I noticed that my vomit bucket had been emptied, and my dad had left toast, another banana, more water and ginger ale, saltine crackers, rice cakes.
Another mention of the biological dad taking care of you. Not a single mention of the mom.
Everything that you'd give to a drunk friend to help mitigate tomorrow's hangover on the floor where I could reach it. I also noticed that I didn't feel any better. I was still spinning just as badly as I had been. My stomach still couldn't parse a single drop of food or drink. Nothing had changed. I didn't even have a phone charger nearby, so music or YouTube was out of the question. Nobody else was awake anymore either, so it was just me and my spinning until I could manage to pass out again. I stayed focused on my single stationary points in space and laid there whimpering, hoping it would end, or I'd fall asleep. Over the next 3 days, that was my life. No food or drink, just the occasional sips of water or V8 from a straw so I wouldn't have to move my head too much. The V8 was a complete failure. I went about 3 days without digesting anything, but thankfully I was able to keep most of the water down after a bit. I have never, in my entire life, been more convinced that I was going to die, and I've never been more ready for it to happen than I was by the 3rd day.
No comment.
When it dawned on me that what I was feeling then may very well be forever. Luckily, it wasn't. By the end of day 4, I was comfortable swallowing food. The spinning had mostly stopped, and I was even able to walk around a little bit. Closing my eyes for longer than a blink was still out of the picture, but I could work with this. It was a good thing, too, because I had a court date just a couple days after that. The court date went fine. I only threw up once on the drive over, and after a week or two, I was pretty much back to my old self. Thank God that was just an isolated incident. It was easily the worst 3.5 days of my life. Then it happened again. And again, and again, and again. Sometimes it would happen while I was driving, and I'd just have to pull over and get a ride from somebody. Other times it would happen while I was in the grocery store, and I'd just have to abandon my shopping cart and hobble to the car as quickly as I could so that I could strip down and lay in the back seat with the AC on in the parking lot. One time it happened at 3 a.m., about 3 hours from my family in one direction and 3 hours from my home in the other direction, with nobody but my sister drunk and sleeping in the back seat in a state where her license was suspended.
Why did you let your sister drink and be in the back seat of your car? Everybody in this family makes bad decisions, apparently, amongst the kids. All of the children in their mom and dad's family make bad decisions as adults.
I wound up laying on a field on the side of the road for a little bit until she sobered up enough that she could get us across state lines, so she could drive us home slightly more legally. It even happened once when I was on a date with this cute girl. It kind of ruined the mood. Luckily, none of these vertigo attacks, as my family had taken to calling them, lasted as long as that first one, but each time it happened, it would take about 2 weeks or so for me to feel like I was more or less back to my old self again. Luckily, I was employed by my dad at the time, and I was living at home, or else I definitely would have lost my job and probably been made homeless by the whole situation. This wasn't really a point in my life where I had a ton of friends that I could have couch surfed with. Of course, we went to tons of different doctors, neurologists, ear, nose, and throat doctors, GPs, all totally affordable back in those days, but none of them had any idea what was wrong with me. We tried all sorts of home remedies, exercises, special smoothies and supplements and teas, but none of them made a dent in my symptoms. For a time, I was taking so much Dramamine every day that the sweet old lady at my nearest gas station always...
Of course, you were taking pills. Why am I shocked? Why am I shocked? Why am I shocked? Why am I shocked? Don't be shocked, Carl. Of course. Of course they're taking Dramamine for the love of me. Of course!
always ordered like about 5 times what a normal convenience store would stock, just for me. Eventually, though, the Dramamine stopped working too, just as all the other things did. I was, by all affordable accounts, a medical mystery. A couple years of living with the fact that I essentially had a live neurological grenade under any seat that I sat down in took their toll on me. My vertigo had developed to a point that no matter how long an interval there was between attacks, be it months or years, I never really recovered like I did before. Back in the day, it was just a day or 2 of suffering, 2 weeks of weariness and discomfort and vomiting sometimes, and then I'm good. For the last 6 years or so, though, it's just been this constant background radiation of dizziness. Actual spinning is extremely rare, and I haven't gotten a full-blown vertigo attack since I transitioned about 4 years ago, but I always feel lightheaded. I always feel like I'm going to pass out at any moment. I always feel too hot. I always feel like the first morning I woke up after those horrible 3.5 days of spinning. I'm glad I'm not spinning, but I should probably be careful walking on any hard surfaces, because I could drop at any moment. When I'm driving, and I need to look around for cars or obstacles, or even just check my side view mirror, I have to lethargically pan my head in whichever direction it needs to go. Because quickly turning my head just to get a feel for my environment is the fastest way to just incapacitate me for 45 minutes or so.
Useful information to be able to disarm them later.
Nowadays, as my symptoms get better and worse with the changes in the wind, I'm stuck trying to figure out if this whole thing is just PTSD from the genuine horror of all those vertigo attacks over the first couple years. Or
Maybe it's your pills and your body's chemistry. Maybe you should go to an actual doctor instead of trying to thug everything out.
if there's something that some drug could fix, but that none of the doctors have ever thought to try. I'll be honest, most of the time I feel like Chuck McGill. I don't even know if this thing is real or not, but it controls my whole life. It colors everything I do. I have to get my roommates to get groceries for me. Most of the time they have to take my girlfriend to and from her work for me, at least until she gets her car working again. Hell, in the summer, like right now, when it's so boiling hot all the time, I can hardly even clean up after myself. I feel like a useless, disgusting slob because lately about a third of my waking hours, literally all I can do is lay down on the phone, talk to people, and look at my phone. Just sitting upright to work on my computer or play a board game or just drive to the convenience store to get a treat for us is totally out of the question for me. Like I said, my symptoms tend to fluctuate in severity for a bit. Well, for the past 2 months or so, some symptoms have been so bad that I've had to miss family birthdays, important conversations with my found family, even sex, because just sitting upright was more than I could manage. As a matter of fact, we've got a dog bed in the living room just for me because sitting upright just isn't really in the cards for me about 80% of the time. I was in a similar state for a few months after I moved out for the first time. I had another full-blown vertigo attack, and all I was able to do for about a month was lay in bed and occasionally drive to the grocery store, where I would have to have them deliver the groceries to my car. I even wound up getting a Switch, my first console purchase in years, to help me cope with being stuck in bed all day. I'd been off of cigarettes for about 3 months at the time, but when I saw that even quitting them couldn't save me from my vertigo,
They've been non-stop talking for 12 minutes thus far, and I don't think they've hit a single lull where most of the things that they're saying is worthy of talking. This is actually a list full of things that you could just write down and make fun of them. How do you make your fucking life seem even so much more boring than it already clearly must be that you have to play shit up as you do? That's impressive. Also, Psalm has a point. I had to miss sex makes it sound like it was scheduled. More than likely, yes, they schedule their sex. I wouldn't be shocked. Ugh.
I was so depressed that I unfortunately wound up falling back into the habit. You know, the most frustrating thing about all of this is that I really can't explain what it feels like beyond just being lightheaded, and that dramatically undersells the severity of it all. Luckily, my roommates understand that whatever this thing is, I'm not just being lazy when I say that I'll do my chores once the sun goes down, or that I need someone to get me a drink from the fridge. Y'all might remember at the end of my first video about my transition, I made a big show of actually being able to drive up to Greenville in South Carolina, and how that was a huge accomplishment for me. This is why. And that was an accomplishment that I since haven't been able to replicate. Not even close. Well, thank God I'm a YouTuber. I can't think of a single job where I want to get fired after just a day or two. At least none where I would have to leave home every day, or couldn't just tap out for an hour or two whenever I needed.
I think it's more like, thank God you're transgender, so that you can be able to frame everything you do as a lifestyle choice, and then you can yap about it and pull in money. With people looking to you for sympathy by saying, "Aw, look at them, they're being so strong." I wish I could be able to... No. Let's not even manifest that into existence. No. Let's not even manifest that into existence. Some things should not be manifested, chat. Yapping about your problems is one thing. Having a video where you're basically humble bragging that you're a YouTuber so you don't actually have to do real work, so you wouldn't be punished for the medical malady that you currently are experiencing, or had experienced, that's a bit of a take too. High narcissism, high humble bragging. That's all I'm really coming away with for now.
God, just keeping a shirt on is a nightmare for me most of the time. I'll be driving with the AC cranked all the way up, freezing my ass off in nothing but a bra and soccer shorts, watching the other people in my car shiver just as much as I am, but not saying anything, because they all know as well as I do that the minute I turn that AC down, my little brain problems are going to get bad enough that I just have to pull over, or else turn around and get back home as fast as I can. I'm always just one bad move from another vertigo attack, or at least that's how it feels. And so I'm kind of just used to spending my entire life walking on this neurological and biological tightrope.
Boo.
So that's the situation. While I've had a very hectic life these last couple months, that's the main reason that you guys don't get more frequent uploads from me. I've got some theories about this whole situation and what might be wrong with my brain, but let's save those for a little bit and talk about exactly how some of these triggers work. Okay, so I just woke up a few minutes ago.
I mean, you're not a scientist, but, okay.
So normally I would never start recording this early in the day because pretty much every day starts with a unique kind of vertigo. I'm not exactly lightheaded, it's more, well, my head feels light. All my head movements feel snappy and responsive, and in a way that isn't necessarily comfortable either. It's as if I've gone from playing a shooter game with a joystick to playing with a mouse. I'm able to move my head around a little bit quicker, and I don't feel it throughout my entire body when I do, but I'm also constantly aware that if I don't force myself to slow down my movements, it's just a matter of time until one of them sets me off and kind of colors my entire day. My morning vertigo is something that, even after all this time, I still don't fully understand. I think it's just that I'm more focused on getting my day together in the morning. I tend to lock in for the first hour or so of my day, focusing on catching up on what I missed from the night before, figuring out what my goals and obstacles for the day might be, or in today's case, writing and recording, to really focus on the effects of morning vertigo before they get swapped out for the more standard symptoms. As much as I wish I could record every video in my jammies, I think I should probably go get dressed. So, throughout the day, the heat is easily my biggest trigger. Seriously, I was considering making this entire video about climate change, just so that I could then focus on how this endless stream of hottest summers in recorded history kind of serves as a major existential threat to me, more than it does even for most people. If it gets much hotter than this, I'm gonna have no choice but to move further up north, and leave this land that I love so much behind. Of course, with the first 5 pages of Project 2025 marking me a criminal on 3 different accounts, I might have to move up north soon anyways, but that's neither here
Politics mentioned.
nor there. As I said, a lot of my time is spent with fans or AC on full blast, and I'm just freezing my ass off, but of course, anything less than that might cause more vertigo, and that's worse than being cold. I also just need fresh air as often as possible. Even in the worst rainstorms, driving with my windows rolled up just does not happen. As somebody who passionately fetishizes my car's stereo, it really sucks to have so much of the depth of the audio blown right out of the window, but that's just how it has to be for me. I'd say that my next biggest trigger is feeling like I'm stuck somewhere. This is the one that makes a lot of those real-life things really difficult for me. I can't really eat at restaurants most of the time. We just have to get takeout and go park the car somewhere pretty, or walk our food down to a quiet little alleyway downtown to eat it. Putting me in situations where I have to just sit at a table and wait for the food, then eat it all, then wait for the check, and if I have to just bail out to my car and lay down for half an hour, I really can't. It just messes me up. I get super scared, and it makes it so difficult for me to not just hyperfixate on my symptoms.
I mean, like how you are on this tape right now, continuing to tell us about your medical malady, as though there's something that you can do to fix it by just talking about it. It still feels like sympathy bait.
Plus, the head movement of actually chewing on food tends to be pretty rough on me when combined with
Imagine that this is what they're like all the time.
the excitement, quote-unquote, of driving a car. So, it's just...
What's going on with the legs and leg position? They're a girly girl. They're a girly trans girl. So they gotta wear the skirt and gotta have the legs and the thigh. You gotta show it off. You know, you gotta hit the boudoir and do that. Bah-nah! Although I ain't showing you my feet. You want feet, you have to pay for it. $20. It is like they have to show it off.
just a rough situation in general. This whole don't want to feel trapped thing also makes doctor's appointments a real nightmare. So much of it is just waiting. Same with red lights or busy drive-thrus that don't have an easy escape route for my car. I don't even drive on the interstate anymore because being stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic on a hot day is just about the worst possible scenario for me. It kind of plays in my claustrophobia, really, which then plays back into my vertigo, and the whole thing starts to spiral. Grocery shopping sucks because I just have to keep pushing and moving until I have everything I need, and I can't leave until I do, or else the whole trip is wasted. Same with family gatherings. I feel so awful when I finally make some time to see my biological family, only to show up, get a 1,000-yard stare for about 20 minutes, and then just have to saran wrap the dinner that they lovingly cooked for me and take it home. Getting my oil changed, or waiting in line at the DMV or the bank, or anything like that is super difficult too.
Okay, so now we got a mention. I did. It's $20. Now we get a mention at 1852 here on this video. Now we're 4 videos deep into the playlist. Here, we get a mention of them being a loving family. They lovingly cooked for me, and I couldn't eat it. Oh, harump, harump, harump. I'm doing them a disservice. I'm doing them a chudism. I'm not doing my part as their daughter. This is the first time we've gotten mention of the family being loving. Even if this is going to be something they're going to turn on even further back in their content. Because we've noticed that from each point backwards in the past, a higher level of disrespect keeps occurring. What the fuck that was? A higher level of disrespect just keeps occurring every single time they make mention of their home life with their biological family. So, I wonder what it'll be like once we get to the 8th video in the playlist. How they'll be discussing about it since then.
I genuinely don't know what I'm going to do when it's time to get my new license renewed, but something tells me I'm going to be riding dirty for a few months once it expires. Pretty much any situation where I can't be back at home, laying down in my bed within 30 minutes is just not something that's compatible with me. Needless to say, I'm never going to be seeing any of my long-distance friends unless they come to me first. Luckily, I've never had much interest in vacationing or seeing the world, but God, I really cannot express how much I miss camping and hiking. For a lot of my teenage years, those were the things that I lived for, and I just can't do them anymore. Next up, there's the overstimulating side of it. This is the trigger that makes the people around me feel the most guilty, unfortunately. A lot of talking or loud music or even just head pats that are a little bit too rough can all send me into my laying down with a 1,000-yard stare for 20 minutes state. Fortunately, I don't really have issues with confrontation or talking to strangers or anything like that. I can handle the serious or casual conversations when they do come up, but anytime I'm in a group of more than, say, 6 people, I'm just cooked. Fairs, parties, visiting friends at work, going to the flea market, Walmart. These things are pretty damn hard, if not outright impossible for me. As a matter of fact, let me read you a text I sent to my girlfriend a few weeks ago. Man, it felt like it was close as fuck, but I managed to get most of the stuff I needed from Walmart on my own. Although I panicked and just grabbed a random bottle of Kids Bubble Bath instead of my normal bath salts. But whatever, I'll take it. Worst of all for this category, though, is that I've lost concerts. Live music was such a...
As I continue to describe this sounds like the consequences of a extremely high maintenance social battery that's being drained frequently whenever they go out to any social event. How that connects to their medical malady of them collapsing and fainting, which seems to have been exacerbated and brought on by them trying to take a hot shower and them getting stuck on the steam, and then having a fixation to hold themselves against so cold surfaces. However that factors into them, there's your problem. They probably should go see an actual doctor. Besides that, let's hear about how they miss concerts.
Huge part of my life for basically my whole life. My first guitar has been signed by tons of local musicians that I adore and still listen to all the time over a decade later. When I was younger, I'd go to music festivals with my family, and there'd be a few nights when I'd hang out with the band and all the other people bold enough to do so behind the stage and just jam with them for a little bit with my guitar. Not to mention the open mic nights, or all the time I'd spend busking for tips downtown when I was younger. All of that is just lost to me. Except, well, there was this one night last year that meant the world to me. One that I don't think I'm ever going to forget. My girlfriend and I had an apartment that was within walking distance of downtown, and sitting on the porch that night, we could hear music coming from a street about 12 or so blocks away. My vertigo wasn't too bad that night, so we decided to check out what was going on. Turns out that, for whatever reason, there was this great big bluegrass concert in the middle of the street with a stadium that they constructed. We snuck in from behind one of the businesses and sat on top of this little brick wall where we had an amazing view of the band, but nobody...
So they just go ahead and do some extra terrorisms. Just, enjoy music with people? Patronize them? Nah. Maybe get an equity gang. Let me just go ahead and sit in on this concert illegally.
Was likely to see us and ask why we didn't have a wristband. Bluegrass is a type of music that I'm really into on the right type of day, but this wasn't really the dirty, grimy, hard-hitting kind of bluegrass that I like. Truth be told, it was probably more accurately described as safe, clean, corporate country music, but it didn't matter to me.
Now they're shit-talking music.
That was the first time I'd seen a band play music live in about 7 years, and being curled up in some hidden little spot wrapped up in my girlfriend's arms. It was just perfect. Never in a million years would I go out of my way to see a band like that before my vertigo, but that night, I was in heaven. See, that's just the thing, really. I've lost a lot to this disease, or syndrome, or whatever you want to call it. Truth be told, I probably just had a particularly bad heat stroke all those years ago, and everything since then is brain damage. But the fact that no doctor has been able to give me a concrete diagnosis makes me feel like such an imposter sometimes. I don't want to be such a huge burden on the people I love, but a lot of the time, I just am. I need help from these people to do things as simple as grocery shopping, but, well, in spite of those times I've wondered, why me? I still can't help but feel lucky. I've got those people in my life, people who can take care of me when I'm at my worst and enjoy my company no matter what I'm going through. People who don't just treat me like a roommate or a casual friend, but who love me and want to help me with my life and make it a little bit easier. Just yesterday,
It doesn't really sound like you're trying to help anybody else with their lives. Seems like you're just appreciative that they help you with yours through emotions, and it doesn't sound like you do anything to help them whatsoever. In any regard, not even emotional.
Girlfriend got me these high socks, or at least they're supposed to be. I had them rolled down because I hate high socks. But they're meant to compress my legs to stop blood from pulling up at my feet when I stand up, because...
So you got compression socks that you're wearing like you're a schoolgirl.
She thinks that a lot of this vertigo might be bolstered by a condition called POTS, and they've been helping so far. She makes sure that I'm stocked up on my multivitamins and that I've always got something to eat, even if it's one of those days where standing up and going to the kitchen is super difficult for me. Everybody else in the house is more than willing to keep their voice down and not sit too close to me if I'm being affected by the claustrophobia side of things. They'll drag in my big fan from the bedroom to wherever I need it if I'm having a hot flash. They don't mind if I just have to take all my clothes off and lay down in the doggy bed in the middle of the living room for a bit.
I did not just hear that.
Everybody else in the house is more than willing to keep their voice down and not sit too close to me if I'm being affected by the claustrophobia side of things. They'll drag in my big fan from the bedroom to wherever I need it if I'm having a hot flash. They don't mind if I just have to take all my clothes off and lay down in the doggy bed in the middle of the living room for a bit. They do everything.
We're cooked, boys. Oh, fuck. Okay. Admits to having a large breed-sized doggy bed that they take off their clothes and lay on. I have to assume it has to be a large breed type dog bed. Okay, all right. All right, puppy girls know no bounds. Puppy girls know no bounds, chat. Puppy girls know no bounds. Puppy girls know no bounds. Ooh, there's one benefit. We are railing through this shit quickly.
They can to make sure that I don't have to drive too much during the day when there's so much more traffic and heat and red lights. These people love me. They really, really love me. That's why I'm not afraid to call them my family. I don't hesitate even for a second in thinking of them that way. So that's why it's such a huge accomplishment for me to drive to a fast food restaurant with my girl, and then to go to my parents' house to get mail, and then to make small talk with the gas station clerk on the way home a couple of nights ago. That's why all my videos take so much longer than they should to make. That's why I spend so much of my life petrified with fear. But that's also why it's impossible for me to not feel like the luckiest person in the world. The love and the support that I feel from the people in my life could carry me through 1,000 vertigo attacks and feeling invincible the whole time, because I'm a firm believer that no matter what you're going through, if you've got food, shelter, and most of all friends, your life is going well. I love you guys. I fucking love you guys.
Still more sympathy bait. On this one, you can clearly see that this is progenitor of the other thumbnail ends. As when this one fades out, it says, I spent like 5 days trying to come up with a better outro, and a wind machine that is styled like the one that I have in the corner of my room next to my door. Yep, and this just ends the exact same. And we're going to check in the future. Yes, it ends the exact same as well. That looks like a Steam Deck, if I'm not correct. Because that's not a Nintendo Switch.
Yes, Ardo Aurelia, Vega Nelson, Demise, Mia Maple, Nicole, George Rosenbaum, Neurofilter, The Coom Slayer, Summer Celine Garden Midnight, about to sneeze. Sorry that this one took longer than... Well, no, it didn't. They all take a long time to come out these days. But with that said, I would like to go ahead and verbally thank the patrons, especially those who are donating $10 or more monthly, such as, I'm going to be reading it on a Steam Deck this time, River Moon, Mars...
So yes, they own a Steam Deck. Breadtuber, trans, puppy girl, fetishist, hypersexual, disrespects the concept of family, disrespects the bonds of parent and child, mixes kink into their everyday life, constantly medically maladated, but has energy and time and effort to buy items such as Steam Decks. What aren't we what don't we learn every single time we do this? Dear brother. Okay, this one a lot shorter because these ones are getting shorter. Thank Christ. Okay, so we have learned a few things compared to last time. Namely, we learned that they have a dog bed that they take the clothes off in and they fucking lay inside naked. We learned that they are happy to brag about the fact that they, I guess, have a responsible part with being the person who caused the dad to want to have nothing to do with them and their child because of their desire to try and insert themselves into circumstances involving their child. And a video that was pretty much humble bragging about how much they're appreciative of other people allowing them to freeload off of them, how appreciative they are of their inner circle of online friends and the community members giving them money, how they are happy that they are a YouTuber because they wouldn't be forced to work, that despite being transgender and hating people that are against their politics, they'll give money to organizations that they have long since joined as a part of a movement of saying hates them for their mere existence, such as Chick-fil-A. Maybe it was a case example of, well, they was just there and it was the only thing that was available. But, like, praxis is not a word to this person. It is just a suggestion. And they ignore this shit every single fucking time. Oh my god. I am so annoyed. Cause now we are learning more about the person rather than the mentality of the motherhood mindset. And what we're learning is that it's all rotten. Every single bit of it. It's all rotten. They don't respect a single fucking thing that doesn't benefit them. But hey, chat, we did it in half the time. We did it in half the time. It's 8:23. I need to be up early tomorrow, so we're gonna go ahead and turn in here now. But boy, this is getting juicy, and by juicy I mean it's getting filthy. I feel like I need to take a shower to begin with because now my skin's crawling. Predictions for next video. The kids have cribs. One of them ran away. She was a neo-Confederate. Thank you, Big Lag. Thank you for everybody who has donated money. I appreciate you heavily. I appreciate all of you, for you need to know that it is going to a good source.
Friend,
not
He is
food.
friend-shaped.
I'm something shaped. I'm something shaped. It is all going to a good place, which is into my coffers and pockets. Because I can at least promise you it's being used on actual meaningful things. Later on this month, after the 15th, tomorrow is movie night. Movie night will be happening in the evening, because Lillian's birthday is tomorrow. I will be out for most of the day. Then I will be in on the 16th for Yappin' with Carl. I know that we did not have news this week, but what we will be doing on Sunday is I am basically going to be doing a formulation of basically the daily sip, or rather I think he calls it the weekly sip, where I'm going to be going through the news, the information, the articles, and talking through things just like I normally do. It'll probably have a little less call-ins from people, but we will still be taking call-ins. It just won't be being so much carried on the call-in material as we cover those topics that are happening. For the people who do not know, fucking Airbagged on Twitter has gotten clapped not once, not twice, but 4 different times within the last 12 hours. It appears that because people are sucking on Elon's cock, that they decided to direct their attention towards attacking their political rival. Rejoice. People who try to grift onto video games for attention are losing. Granted, they still have their Instagram and they still have their Twitch, but that is for nothing. A win is a win. A win is a win. A win is a win. And after the 15th, Community Group Gaming is going to be taking part with Marvel Rivals, as I have now dug my hand into picking up the game and learning it. I've been playing it with Amy. My first session was literally just the other night with her. That's why my insomnia has been at an all-time high, and why the segments were missing. But we're working it out. We're getting through it. Once again, consider becoming a Carlist. Pick your denomination and become a fan of the one true Carl, and then Inquisition upon the heathens as you see fit in the name of Carla! I'm leaving now. Goodbye, chat. Do I play with Jeff? My Spooter commuter? I haven't touched Jeff. Amy actually started me on the Vanguards. I know 3 characters at this point in time, and I'm learning more. She even bought me a account. Bought me a throwaway account, because she only plays ranked when she's on camera. So I will be having to level up my main account, as well as using that account. And we're just going to see what fucking happens, okay? My hope is going to be that this does not become the same experience that we have at League. So more than likely, if I intend on playing it, I'm going to need to have a stack lobby of 3 or more people, preferably from the server. preferably people who are solid, and preferably people who are willing to play a marathon. Because we ain't throwing like a couple of hands and rounds. Granted, right now it'll be quick play on my main account, but we ain't just throwing hands with simple rounds. We're talking 4 or 5 hour game sessions for these for these community group gaming streams. So, if you have any skill in Marvel Rivals and you would like to be able to join in, please join the Discord and make sure to let people know. And we will see what happens. Anyways, I'm going to drink the rest of this water and take another one of these pills and see if I can do something about this migraine I can feel coming on. And I will see y'all later tomorrow night, where we will have, I think, a total of 3 to 4 movies. I believe that the vote for the third movie went through, because the first movie is going to has already been decided. And then, of course, Carl's choice. So, we're going to see you when we see you. We're going to see you when you see you. 07's in the chat, boys. 07's in the chat. So remember, don't let your dreams be memes. Do not let your cat boys turn into cat girls. And do not let your cat girls turn into puppy girls that sleep with their clothes off in bed. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.